Hi, future officers. Welcome to Chapters and welcome to another important session in which we are going to cover one of the very important document released by the Government of India, that is the Economic Survey 2025-2026. So you all know that for the upcoming RBI Grade B officer examinations, we have already taken session on the various important reports like Union Budget, RBI Annual Report, Payment Vision Report, and today we are on the fourth session of this particular revision series. We are going to cover the Economic Survey 2025-2026. Let me tell you that this session is not just important for all the people who are only preparing for this examination. In fact, this session is very important for all those people who are not even preparing for any examination, because this is basically going to give you the analysis that what exactly is happening in your country in the last 1 year and what exactly are the different findings that we can draw from that particular part, right, my dear friends? So before starting with the session, if I'm audible and visible to all of you, please give me a thumbs up in the chat box so that we can start with the today's session. So my dear friends, I believe that all the technicalities of the session are quite good and we are good to go with the today's session. So once again, welcome to all of you on Chapters YouTube channel, and today we are going to cover Economic Survey 2025-2026. Let me tell you, my dear friend, that this is not just a document. This is the health checkup report of the country's performance in the last year. Let's try to understand this with the help of example. So we all know that our body is really very important for us, and when we try to see that okay, how exactly it is performing, so we need to ensure that we are having a proper health checkup, right? And our body is having the different body parts, like we are hands, legs, brain, then we are having our eyes, ears, so everything is there. So we need to ensure that every body part, every organ is basically performing well for the better functioning of the body. Similarly, my dear friends, in our economy, we are having the different components. For example, like you can see the different types of images which are mentioned here. These are not the random images. These images basically include the agriculture, your science and technology, your infrastructure, your economy, students, education. So all these are very important from the examination point of view, right? Why? Because all of these are the important organs of the Indian economy, and how they are performing, it really very important from examination point of view. Clear, everyone? So hello Aditi, Harshal, and Arya, thank you for giving me your thumbs up. So my dear friends, let me tell you that again today's session is going to be a very kind of wake up call for all of you, that how exactly India has performed in the previous past 1 year. So as I already told you and gave you the reference of the human body, similarly, when all these sectors are performing well in the Indian economy, then definitely this is something which is going to help you to understand that how exactly the Indian economy has performed. So, my dear friends, when it comes to the economic survey, it presents a comprehensive assessment of India's economic performance, policy direction, and structural priorities. This can be carefully compiled to help students understand the key development, data trend, and thematic insight from the latest survey which was released. Clear, everyone? Let me tell you very important point that economic survey अगर हम बात करते हैं तो see, these are the various chapters in which we have divided the Indian economic survey, and we will be covering every chapter, and then we will be deciding that what exactly was the performance of the Indian economy last year. So Arya is having a request, sir, please bring your CA marathon, sir. It was very helpful last time. So don't worry, Arya, we will be coming up with that session very soon. Clear? So now let's try to focus on the today's session where we are covering the economic survey 2025-2026. In a nutshell, let me tell you a overall brief of this economic survey, that Indian economy, despite the global uncertainties, has really performed well in the last 1 year, as we were having the strong private consumption, we were having the sustained investment from the Indian government. We all the different sectors of the Indian economy have really performed well, and that's how, in a nutshell, India was again one of the largest and the fastest performing economies in the world in the last year. Now, how exactly it has been happened? What were the different technicalities? What are the different numbers? Let's try to see that and see through the lens of the government of India how exactly it sees itself and its performance in the last 1 year. So, my dear friends, when it comes to the economic survey is being prepared by the Department of Economic Affairs. So सबसे पहले किसी भी डॉक्यूमेंट को कवर करें तो ये जानना बहुत जरूरी है कि इसको रिलीज कौन करता है. It has been prepared by Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance, and it is prepared under the supervision of the Chief Economic Advisor, and That time the chief economic advisor is Dr. V Anant Nageshwaran. तो ये नाम याद रखिए दोस्तों, ये भी काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है आपके लिए. Then provides a data driven analysis of India's economy covering growth, inflation, fiscal position, external sector, financial system, key sectors. So all these things, how collectively they have really made the economy push in the right direction. That's what we are going to understand in the today's session. Clear? So now, my dear friends, when it comes to the India's economy, India's growth needs to be understood in the context of a challenging global environment. We all know that, since the last time we have seen so many global challenges. The tariff wars are there, and some real war life situations are happening outside the India. Then we are having the import and export related problems with the different countries. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and in the Union Budget and Economic Survey we have discussed all of them in a very detailed manner, that what exactly was happening around the world, right? So there were sustained intensifying geopolitical tensions were there, trade fragmentation was there, financial vulnerabilities were there, but still among all these turbulences which are there surrounding the Indian economy, still Indian economy has really performed well. And how exactly it has been done, it is basically evident from the India's real gross domestic product growth for the fiscal year 2026. So as per the first advance estimates which were being released by the government of India, the Indian economy grew at 7.4% in the fiscal year 26. Now what exactly is the real gross domestic product? My dear friends, see, there are two terms that you must have heard, that is the real GDP and the nominal GDP. What is the GDP? First of all, it is the total value of all the final goods and services which are produced within an economy in a particular amount of time, right? So this is called the GDP. Now what is the real GDP? When we adjust the GDP against the inflation, that is called the real GDP. Why, my dear friends? See, because this can be happen that when we see the growth and when we see the final prices of the goods and services which were being produced, so there might be the impact of inflation on them, right? So we don't want to see that what was the impact of inflation, and that is why this value basically gives us the real picture. That's why we call it as a real GDP. Now comes the nominal GDP. Now in the nominal GDP, this inflation is being added, right? So what was the impact of the inflation? Let's take an example. The last year the price of 1 liter milk was rupees 100, and now this year it has become 110. So basically this impact which we have seen, the 10% impact is only due to the inflation here, right? Now what was the increase in the production of the milk? Let's take an example. Last year only 2 liter milk was produced, this year 4 liter of the milk was produced. So here what we can do, that we can just subtract the impact of the inflation and just see what was the impact of that added 2 liters of the milk which was being produced. So this has been given by the nominal GDP. Clear, everyone? So what was the India's real GDP? It was 7.4%. So this is a very important part, and this is an exam trigger for all of you, because this is a direct factual question which is here before you, which can be waiting for you in the upcoming examination. So now moving ahead, the next important term, that is the gross value added growth. So what is the gross value added growth, my dear friends? Let's try to understand this with the help of example. Let's take an example that a bakery has purchased wheat for rupees 100, right? It has purchased the wheat for rupees 100. Now it has basically converted that wheat into the bread, and the price of bread is 150. So what is the gross value addition here which has been added by that bakery mill? That is rupees 50. Clear? So this is the gross value addition. Now we are having the different sectors, and in the different sectors we are having the different types of value addition done by the different players of the economy. So when we add all of them, and when we see that what exactly was the value that they have produced last year, that they have added last year, and what is the value that they have added this year. So what is the growth rate in this? Let's take an example. The value last year was 40. Now this year it is 50. So what exactly is the percentage increase? That is what we call the gross value added growth. And this year it was 7.3%. Clear, everyone? Now I would like to ask you in the comment section, please tell me what is the real gross domestic product growth for the country in the last fiscal year. What was that? It was 7.4%. And what is the gross value added growth last year? That is 7.3%. Absolutely right. This is what I am expecting from all of you, that you are required to do from examination point of view. Well done, everyone. Now this economic survey also tells us that what is going to be India's long-term growth momentum. So India's economy is going to grow by 6.8 to 7.2% in the fiscal year 2027. तो इंडिया की इकोनॉमी अब आने वाले साल में किस रेट पर ग्रो करने वाली है एज पर द फैक्टर्स एंड एज पर द परफॉर्मेंस दैट वी हैव सीन इन द लास्ट ईयर, और इस साल की एक्सपेक्टेशन के अकॉर्डिंग क्या इंडिया का ग्रोथ होगा, दैट इज 6.8% to 7.2%. That is basically the range of the India's GDP growth for fiscal year 27. So you must be having the question, sir, we have to cover the fiscal year GDP growth rate for the this year or the previous year. Let me tell you here, in the case of economic survey, you have to retain this both the values. So what was the real GDP growth for the last year? 7.4%. What is the range for the upcoming year? That is fiscal year 27. That is 6.8 to 7.2%. Please remember, this is a very, very important concept, right? A very important data to be covered from examination point of view. And I already told you that India has remained the fastest growing major economy for the 4th consecutive year. Another important data. And what is the potential growth of the economy? Guys, what is the potential growth? So potential growth is that if at a present speed we are maintaining a consistency, then what exactly will be the India's growth rate? So that is basically comes 7%. That basically comes 7%. Why, my dear friends? Let me give you an example. That let's take an example. You are someone who is preparing for RBI examination, right? And you are studying 4 hours per day. So what will be your performance when you are studying continuously 4 hours? Why exactly we are focusing on the consistency? Because let's take an example. For the 2 days you have studied for 10 hours. Now after that there is a huge burnout in your body. So you are now taking the leave for the next 4 days. So this is not going to work properly. So as per the present potential, what is our growth rate? So that is basically around 7%. Clear? What is the potential growth rate of the economy? 7%. So there are 4 values, my dear friend, that we need to understand. First one was, what was the real GDP for fiscal year 26? Fiscal year 26 के लिए क्या GDP growth होगा इंडिया का, ये हमें याद करना है. Then we need to understand what is the range of the GDP growth rate for the fiscal year 27, right? That we covered 6.8 to 7.2%. Then we need to understand that what exactly is the India's potential growth rate in the long term basis, that is 7%. So all these numbers are really very important. And my dear friends, let me tell you that when you will keep on giving me the answers to the question that I'm asking you during the session, let me tell you that the session is going to be very productive for you. Because when you will be using your mind, you will be retaining the information and you will be giving me the information in the chat box. Now you're taking an action. When you will be taking an action, then it will stay in your mind for a longer period of time. That's why I am insisting all of you that please try to participate in the session. Okay. So now you can see here the Reform Express pushes India's potential GDP to around 7%. So what are the different factors? Like capital accumulation is very important. Labor input, total factor productivity. So guys, let me tell you, in all the areas, India is really going good. In the capital accumulation, we are having the good capital expenditure. The capital expenditure is basically on the assets which are being, on which the government of India is investing, which are really going to help them to create growth in the upcoming period. For example, we are having the bridges, we are having the factories, we are having the roads, right? Then we are having the labor inputs, then we are having total factor productivity. So all these parameters are really going well, performing well, and that is why I told you in the starting of the session that Indian economy has really performed well. Clear? Moving ahead, the demand side of the growth, consumption and investment. Now we will try to understand that what exactly was the performance of the demand side of the India and how exactly we have performed and how exactly it has helped Indian economy to move in the right direction. So here the very first part is consumption. That is private final consumption expenditure. Now what is the private final consumption expenditure? Which is being done by the households in the Indian economy. So kitna kharcha kiya? What exactly are our expenditures on the fuel, on the clothes, on the education, on the transport, on the various services, so on the food. So what exactly is the total expenditure? So this is basically telling us that what is the consumption expenditure, because we are consuming all these services and we are spending money for this consumption of the services. So this has also grew by 7%. That means when a particular service has been provided in the country, people are taking the benefit of those services by paying for it. So when the people are paying, that means money is there in the circulation and economy will grow. Because when nobody is spending the money, what will happen? The shopkeepers who are having the products with them, they will be selling them at a very low rate, at a very low prices. So they will also bear the losses. They must have taken the loans for bringing those products. Then definitely they will be again bearing the losses there, right? They won't be able to repay the loan. When they won't be able to repay the loan, what will happen? The loan will become into NPA. When the loan will become into NPA, it will be called the bad asset for the banks. Now banks will bear the pressure. So that's how everything is correlated in the Indian economy and in every economy. So that is what I am trying to make you understand, that how exactly the different pillars, even they are responsible for the performance of each other. Clear, everyone? So now we have seen that when we talk about the private final consumption expenditure, it has reached 61.5% of the GDP, which is highest since 2012, and fiscal year 23 also it was at 61.5%. So in the financial year 23 also we have seen that it was 61.5%. This year also it is 61.5%, and this is the highest since 2012. Clear, everyone? So what exactly has supported the consumption? Why people were able to spend that much amount of money? Because, my dear friends, the inflation in the country was low. Inflation was in the within the range. I told you that in when we discussed the RBI annual report, I told you that what exactly is the inflation targeting framework of the country. Can anybody tell me that what is the inflation targeting framework? What is the range of the inflation that we target? That is 4 plus minus 2%, right? That is the range is 2 to 6%, and the inflation one was within the range. That is why loans were not that much expensive, and people were having more and more amount of money, and also there was a stable employment in the Indian economy. And what was happened, that there was a sustained investment from the government of India in the expenditure, and that is why we were able to perform good in this part. We were having the money in our pockets that we can spend on to purchase the different services. Exactly, I can see Herschel and Srishti has given me the right answer, 4 plus minus 2%. Well done. So my dear friends, that was the important things, that why exactly the private expenditure, the private final consumption expenditure was growing at 7%, and that's how it basically contributed towards the Indian economy. Now moving ahead, now comes the gross fixed capital formation. Now what is the gross fixed capital formation? That is when the Indian businesses are setting up the factories, government of India setting up the roads, highways, they are creating the infrastructure like bridges, they are creating the railway lines. So all these things are basically going to bring the activities in the Indian economy, and they are going to create assets for the Indian economy, and that's what we call the gross fixed capital formation. Now it has also grown 7.8%. That means that when we compare the value, the amount of money that we have spent on this kind of capital formation in our country last year, let's take an example. Last year we spent 100 rupees. This year we have spent 107.8 rupees on this capital formation, and that is why the growth is 7.8% in this part. And when we see what was the expenditure in terms of the economic size of the GDP, so what was that? It is 30% of the GDP, 30% of the total value, 30% of the GDP, right, my dear friends? When we see in the real amount, the gross fixed capital formation that was being invested in the machinery, in the buildings, in the infrastructure, so basically it was 30% of the GDP. Please remember this data, my dear friend. That is why I am repeating it again and again, because it is very important to be covered. Clear, everyone? So there are sustained public capital expenditure and signs of the revival in the private investments as well. Now comes the sector-wise performances. Now let's see in the sector-wise part that how exactly the different sectors has performed. अभी तक हमने क्या देखा कि individuals ने कितना spend किया, government कितना spend कर रही है, right? See, whenever you are trying to understand the economy, we have to understand that when we are spending money in the economy, then definitely we are generating the activities, and that directly means that the people are now having more money to spend. But whether they are spending or not, that is also very important. Now we have seen both the areas, that Indian people has spent, government of India has also spent on the asset creation. That means both of them are really doing good. Now let's move ahead, that what was the sector wise performance, what was the performance of the different sectors, and how exactly it impacted the Indian economy. And you can start with the global capability centers, my dear friends. So what are the global capability center? First of all, the question is this. Let's take an example that there is a foreign company. So you always see that, like Facebook is setting up an office in the India, or Google is setting up office in India. So let's take an example. There is a very big foreign company. It has set up a office in Hyderabad, right? And this office is providing the different facilities to the different branches of the company across the world. Let's take an example. Risk management service has been provided by this Hyderabad office of that particular company. It is providing the risk management. It was providing the, BPO services to the entire world. So basically, what exactly is happening? So we have created a capability center which is going to provide services at a global level, right? And this center has been created in India only. So this is also going to bring a lot of livelihood opportunities for the people. So that's why you can see that the global capability centers in India has increased by 1.2 times. In fiscal year 2019, it was 1430, and this number increased to 1700 in the fiscal year 24. Clear, everyone? So that's how this is really playing a very important role. Now comes the India's technology startup. The number of Gen AI startups has increased. What is the Gen AI startup? It is a generative artificial intelligence startups. We are talking about those artificial intelligence startups which are working on the generative AI. What is the generative AI? Like we are having the chat GPT, which can produce the questions for you, which can produce images for us, which can basically provide us the summary, which can provide us the particular report analysis. So all these different things can be done by the generative AI, right? So such kind of startups has increased in our country. You can see that in the first half of the calendar year 2025, the number of startups has increased to 890. And that really says that how much exactly we are into this generative AI startup culture. Clear, everyone? I hope this makes sense to all of you and everybody is able to relate it. If yes, please give me a thumbs up in the chat box that yes. And do tell me in the chat box that what was the total number of global capability centers in our country in the fiscal year 2024. What will be the right answer to this question? The right answer is 1700. Absolutely right. Now let's move ahead. And here, my dear friends, let me tell you the very important part that this particular report has mentioned. As I already told you in the initial part of this particular session, that we have seen services sector was the growth engine for the Indian economy, because it is a sector which has really performed extremely well, and it is carrying the pressure of the Indian economy is, the pressure of performance on its shoulders, right? It is that sector. You can see here that services sector was the main engine. Why so? Because when we talk about the services gross value addition growth, it was 9.3%. Guys, overall we see what was the number in the gross value addition. It was around 7.3%, right? That we already covered earlier. Now you can see that in the services sector it is 9.3%, and it is estimated to be 9.1% for the fiscal year 26. When we talk about the services share in the GDP, it was 53.6%. Services share in the gross value addition, it is 56.4%, which is highest ever. And this shows that services sector has really played a very important role in the good performance of the Indian economy in the last financial year. And service sector was also driving the urban employment opportunities. 30% of the total employment in the services sector only, right? It is the lifeblood for the cities at 61.9% share in the urban employment. अगर हम बात करते हैं अर्बन एम्प्लॉयमेंट सर्विसेज का, तो 61.9% of the people are basically going for these jobs. 30% of the total employment in the country is in the services sector only, and that's why services sector is the main engine for the India's growth of the economy in the last year, and in this year also it is going to really perform well. Now comes the global positioning, my dear friends, when it comes to the India. So India is the seventh largest exporter of the services. Right now, what exactly comes under the services? Like we are having IT companies, right? So basically something which is which cannot be seen, my dear friend. Now we are in the services. We not generally deal in the goods which can be seen, which can be taken in the hands. No, it's not about the goods. When we talk about the services are those which cannot be seen. For example, hospitality services are there, IT services are there, BPO services are there, right? So India is basically the seventh largest exporter of services across the world, and India's share in the global services trade increased from 2% to 4.3% in 2024. So please tell me in the chat box, what is the share of global services trade of the country? What is India's contribution there? It has increased from 2% to what percent? It has increased from 2% to 4.3%. Absolutely right. I can see in the chat box, Rama, Harshal, and Aditi has given me the right answer. Well done, everybody. So that these are the numbers which are really important. And let me tell you that in this session, we will be covering this whole session in such manner that by the end of the session, you will be able to cover everything. And I would like to tell you that please wait till the last part of the session, because we are having a very good part waiting at the end of this particular session for all of you. Clear? So yes, Harshal, Srishti has also come with the right answer. Well done. Let's move ahead. So now, my dear friends, when it comes to the foreign direct investment, the foreign direct investment, you can see that the services attracted 80.2% of the total FDI, which was increased from 77.7% in the fiscal year 2016 to fiscal year 2020. Clear? So FDI may be improvement to you. What is FDI? FDI is when there is a person who is living outside India and he is investing in a company which is in India. And this investment is coming with the control over the daily activities of that particular company, over the management of the company. So that's what we call FDI. There are two kinds of investments, FDI and FPI. In FPI, there is no control. In FDI, there is a control. Right? Getting it? Now we are done with the services sector, my dear friends. We have seen that services sector has really played a very important role. Its share in the Indian GDP, its share in the gross value addition was really high. And now let's try to see that what exactly was the performance of the industries and the manufacturing sector. Now, when you will see the industrial gross value addition, it was 7% in the first half of fiscal year 26. When we talk about the industry, it was more than 9%. In the industrial gross value addition, it is 7%. So that's how the services is way above than the industries. When we talk about the manufacturing acceleration, it was 7.72% in the quarter 1 of the fiscal year 26. It was 9.13% in the quarter 2 of the fiscal year 26. Now you must be having the question, ki, sir, are we really required to remember these different percentages of the different quarters? Answer is clear, no. You are not required to remember them. This is just for the understanding purposes. But yes, this is very important, guys, right? The industrial gross value addition part is very important. What was the percentage? It was 7%. Absolutely right. Now you can see here that what was the broad-based growth in the real gross value addition. You can see the total gross value addition, my dear friends, we saw in the starting of the session that it was 7.3%. Right? In the services sector, it is 9.1%. In the industry, it is 6.2%. In the agriculture, it is 3.1%. For the fiscal year 26. Now you can definitely see that why exactly we are saying that the services is the basically the major sector which has performed well. See, you all know that in our country, the majority of the population is basically inclined towards which sector? Primary sector, that is the agriculture sector. We are having more and more number of people working in the agriculture sector. And what is the gross value addition there? Only 3.1%. When it comes to the industries, we are having factories, then you can see that it is 6.2%. The gross value addition is 6.2%, almost twice of the agriculture gross value addition. And then you will be seeing from industrial gross value addition to the services gross value addition, it is 9.1%. Right, my dear friends? So that is why we are saying that the services sector is the main engine of the Indian economic growth. Are you getting it now? That what is the proper analysis here? Let's move ahead. Now, my dear friends, we have also come up with the different schemes in order to ensure that we are having more and more production. You all know that in India, we are having a scheme that is the production linked incentive scheme, where if you will be producing more, we will be providing you more incentives. The government says this, right? Let's take an example. You are producing steel. So we are having the PLI for steel, right? Where we are providing you incentives if you are having really good amount of production. So basically, in this part, what exactly was actual investment? That's what we are trying to see here. So we are having the PLI scheme in the 14 sectors, and we saw that more than 2 lakh crore actual investment was made, in which 18.7 lakh crore incremental production sales has taken place, and 12.6 lakh jobs were being created. So overall 12.6 lakh jobs were being created, 18.7 lakh crore incremental production was there, and 2 lakh crore ka investment tha. So basically, that's how we are performing well, right? When it comes to the Global Innovation Index, important part, please remember what is India's position. In 2019, India's position was 66th, and in 2025, India's position is 38th. So this is a very important part. that what is the India's rank in the innovation index? It is 638th position in 2025, right? So please quickly tell me in the comment section what is the rank of India in the global innovation index. Please ensure to participate. Please ensure to give me the answer in the comment section. What is the right answer? India's rank was 38th. Absolutely right. Now, when we were covering the union budget, we also saw that India has come up with the India Semiconductor Mission 2.0, where we are basically focusing on the manufacturing of semiconductor chips in our country. So let me tell you that 10 semiconductor manufacturing and packaging projects have been approved across 6 states. So we are really doing good. Last year also we were really doing good in the semiconductor mission, in the manufacturing of the semiconductors. But now this year we want to go to a next level, and that is why India came up with the India Semiconductor Mission 2.0. So the investment, we can see that the investment was of 1.6 lakh crore in the India Semiconductor Mission last year. So now guys, we are done with the services. We are done with the industries, right? We have seen that what is the performance of both these sectors. Now let's move on to the third sector, that is the agriculture sector. What is the agriculture sector, right? So agriculture and allied sectors, we have seen a good output and diversification. Now let me tell you, when it comes to the agriculture sector of the Indian economy, we have realized and made a very important observation. See, earlier what was happening is that the farmers were only involved in the cultivation of the crops. At that point of time, we saw that the contribution to the income of the farmers from these crops was really, only that contribution was there. But then we got an idea that why not we enter into the animal husbandry? Why not we enter into the livestock? Why not we enter into the fishing and aquaculture? And when we diversified into these different components of the agriculture sector, let me tell you guys, the agriculture sector is having the different components. Cultivation of crops is just one component. It is not the entire sector. I know that when we talk about the agriculture, only this thing comes to our mind that this is only there. But no, we are having the crops, we are having the livestock, we are having the fishing and aquaculture. Clear? So now the farmers have become smart. Now they are diversifying their energy. Now they are diversifying their sources. And this year you can see that what was the result. Now, my dear friends, you can see we have diversified in the agriculture, and you can definitely see in the crops part, we have only seen the gross value addition of 4%. Only 4% was there in the crops. And when it comes to the livestock, it was 6.1% increase. And when we talk about the fishing and aquaculture, there was more increase to 7.2%. So that is why the diversification is really helping the farmers. And you can see that overall gross value addition in the agriculture sector is 4.7% from fiscal year 20 to 2024. Right? From fiscal year 2020 to 2024, the gross value addition in the agriculture was 4.7%. But when you see that what is the major contributor here, that is fishing and aquaculture. So please tell me in the comment section, which one of the following component of the agriculture sector was the major contributor to the gross value addition in the agriculture sector for fiscal year 2020 to 2024? What will be the right answer? Fishing and aquaculture. That is the right answer. Now, my dear friends, when we talk about the food grain production, what was the performance in the crops part? So when we talk about the food grain production for the agriculture year 2024-2025, we basically produced total of 3,577.3 lakh metric tons. So 3,577.3 lakh metric tons was the total food grain output. And in this also, although we have seen the increase, but still its gross value addition was quite low. You can see there was an increase of 254.3 lakh metric tons over the last year, which includes the production of rice, wheat, maize, coarse cereals, including the Shri Anna. So now I would like to give you the homework that you will be telling me in the comment section that what are the Shri Anna crops कौन सी हैं, ये आप मुझे बताएंगे comment section के अंदर after the session. Clear? And I can see Rupesh, Aditi, Srishti, Harshal, everybody has given me the right answer to the previous questions. Well done, everyone. So we have seen the food grains has also increased, but it is still not having that much amount of contribution to the gross value addition in the agriculture sector. But what is that sector in the agriculture sector which was having the maximum contribution? That was the horticulture. And this we have also discussed in the RBI annual report. So horticulture was the key driver in the agriculture gross value addition, where 33% of the contribution was only from the horticulture crops. The production was 362.08 million tons in 2024-2025, which is higher than estimated food grains of 357.73 million tons. तो हमने एक्सपेक्ट किया था 357.73 मिलियन टन होगा, बट it was 362.08 million, and there was a 33% of the contribution was from horticulture. So what is that component of agriculture which has the highest contribution in the gross value addition? That is horticulture, 33%. Clear everyone? When we talk about the livestock sector, it was 195%. When we talk about the fisheries, it was more than 140%. The fish production has increased by more than 140%. So that is something we need to understand now. So I hope that this part is clear to everyone. We have discussed in the agriculture sector what is the performance of the output grains. Then we have seen that what is the performance of the different components of the agriculture in the gross value addition. Now let's move ahead into a very important part. You all know that we are having the electronic national agriculture market, ENAM market. So ENAM market is an online platform which basically helps the farmers for a better price discovery of their produces on that platform, and from the proper bidding process they can get a really high bids for their crops and they can sell their products at a very good prices. So after the introduction of the ENAM, you can see that 1.79 crore farmers, 2.72 crore traders, 4,698 farmer producer organizations, they were enrolled onto the ENAM market. 1,522 mandis were there across 23 states and 4 union territories which are there on the national agriculture market. So there is no requirement of retaining all these numbers, but yes, 1.79 crore farmers, that is the very important part. And 1,522 mandis are been enrolled onto are onboarded on the ENAM market. That is also very important, right? Now what are the other different steps taken by the government for the farmers? So ENAM is one. Then we are having the minimum support price for the mandated crops. Can anybody tell me how many crops are there for which we launched the MSP? So this is again a homework for all of you. We have discussed this many times in the previous sessions, right? Today I'm not going to discuss it. So then we are having the PM Kisan. But yes, I can tell you that what is the MSP. So MSP is what, my dear friends? MSP is basically the price at which government provides the surety that this is the minimum support price on which the price at which the farmer can sell the produces. It is the minimum price. If the market price goes below down this MSP, then you can definitely come to the government, and under the MSP route, we will be procuring your produces. So that's what it is. Clear everyone? So now we are having the PM Kisan also. So Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme has been launched by the government of India, and 4.09 lakh crore has been released in the 21 installments. And we also saw that 22nd installment has already been launched, right? We have already discussed about that in the previous sessions. So PM Kisan scheme, guys, it was being launched. So the PM Kisan scheme was been launched by the government of India for supporting the farmers, right, my dear friends? So the PM Kisan scheme was been launched by the government of India to support the farmers because they were having different needs for continuing their farming activities, and that is why it is very important for us to ensure that we are having this. Clear everyone? So my dear friends, I hope that this is clear to everyone. Now moving ahead, we are having another scheme, that is the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Mandhan Yojana. Now we all know that in our country we are having the pension related services for the different components. Like we are having the pension related services for the organized sector, we are having it for the unorganized sector. But what about the Indian farmers? Will they do they not require the funds after getting to the age of 60 years? They also require those funds, right, my dear friends? And that is why we need to ensure this very important part, that we are having the pension for these people as well. And that is why, my dear friends, let me tell you that government of India came up with the PM Kisan Mandhan Yojana, in which we are providing the pension related services to the farmers when they are reaching the age of 60. After reaching the age of 60, they will be getting the pension under this particular PM Kisan Mandhan Yojana. And how many farmers are being enrolled? till 31st December 2025, 24.92 lakh farmers, around 25 lakh farmers are being enrolled on the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Mandhan Yojana. Clear, everybody? So now we have seen that how exactly the different sectors has performed, my dear friends. I told you in the initial part of the session that we will be seeing that what is the health checkup of the Indian economy. This is the health checkup report of the Indian economy. Until now we have seen that Indian economy is really performing good, right? The gross value addition has increased. The real GDP growth, we have also seen the real GDP growth. The different sectors have also performed well. Like services sector is the main engine growth. We are having the industries really performing well, and agriculture is also performing well. In the agriculture sector, we saw that what was the performance across the different agriculture components, and there the maximum contribution in the agriculture sector was basically in the GVA. It was of horticulture products, right? 33%. And when we talk about the overall gross value addition, we saw that which component was having the maximum amount of contribution, that is the fishing and aquaculture. Clear, everybody? Are you guys able to relate this part? Are you guys able to understand till now that what exactly we are going to cover in the Indian Economic Survey? So ये sectoral performance आप सभी को clear है? If yes, please give me a thumbs up in the chat box so that I can ensure that everything is clear to you, right? Okay, let me tell you guys that this session is not just going to help you in the RBI Grade B officer phase 1 examination. This is also going to help you in the phase 2 exam. Because I am thinking that you are not just going to sit only for phase 1. I am having proper belief that you will be sitting in phase 2 as well. And there, definitely for your descriptive papers, this session is going to play a very important role, right? So now moving ahead, let's move on to the fiscal developments. Stability through the credible consolidation. So my dear friends, India's credibility is really very important. What is India's credibility? So my dear friends, you know that whenever you are going to a bank and you ask for a loan, what exactly the bank try to assess in you? It tries to assess you that what is your loan repaying capability. That's what we call the credit rating. और ये हमें किससे पता चलता है? सिबिल स्कोर से पता चलता है, right? Do you guys agree with me? Similarly, when the government of India wants to have funds, so India's loan repaying capability is being shown through the sovereign credit rating. And we have seen that there are organizations which have basically, upgraded the India in the sovereign credit rating. And what exactly these three organizations are? These three organizations are Morningstar, DBRS, S&P Global Ratings, Rating and Investment Information, INC. So these are the three different organizations which have upgraded India's sovereign credit rating, and that shows more and more trust now on the Indian ecosystem that yes, India is really going good. Clear, everybody? I hope that till now everything is clear. Now let's move ahead. That what was the amount of money that the government of India is having? See guys, when we want to analyze you in a financial manner, we need to see that okay, how much money you are having in your pocket, right? Because only basis of that we can see that what is your purchasing power, right? Whether you can, whether you can bear the cost of some services or not, right? Whether you can purchase those services for you, like you can afford the food, you can afford different clothes, you can afford, the vehicle for you for the daily commutation. Similarly, when government of India is there, government of India wants to take so many welfare projects for the Indian population. So for that, they must be having some heavy pockets, right? Heavy pockets means they are having the good amount of money in their pockets. Then only they will be able to invest, right? Then only they will be able to spend on the welfare projects of the population. So now we are going to discuss that what exactly is the health of the Indian pockets, India's government pockets, right? So now India की pocket में पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? You all know guys that on everything we are having the tax, right? So the tax is one of the very important part for the Indian government. So basically there is a center's revenue receipts. Now what are the center revenue receipts, my dear friends? This is the amount of money that the government of India is, the amount of money that is going into the account of Indian government, right? And what is it? 8.5% of the GDP. It was 8.5% of the GDP in fiscal year 2016 to 20, right? It was the average, right? Now what exactly is the value for the fiscal year 25? It was 9.2% of the GDP. That means the money in the Indian government pocket has increased or decreased. Can you please tell me in the comment section? It has increased. So the amount of money in the Indian government pocket has increased by 9.2% of the GDP. Now, what are the non-corporate taxes, guys? These are those taxes which we are not getting from the companies. So different companies are there in our country, right? So we are not getting the money from the, we are not getting the taxes from the companies. We are talking about those taxes that we are taking from the, direct individuals. Like we are having the income tax, right? We are getting the tax from the limited liability partnerships. We are taking the tax from the proprietors. So we are talking about the non-corporate taxes. So this was 2.4% of the GDP pre-pandemic, and it has increased to 3.3% post-pandemic. And when we talk about the direct tax base, so my dear friends, I told you that the direct tax, that what is direct tax, which we pay on the incomes, right? So income tax returns has also increased, right? So that means अगर income tax ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग भरेंगे तो क्या होगा? Government के पास ज़्यादा पैसा जाएगा, government के pockets और heavy होंगी. Now government will not hesitate in spending it on the welfare projects of the population. So that's how it works. So now you can see that the income tax returns filed by 6.9 crore in the fiscal year 22 has increased to 9.2 crore in the fiscal year 2025. Getting it, my dear friends? Getting it? Now please tell me in the comment section that what exactly is the number of income tax returns which were being filed in the fiscal year 2025. Let me see who will give me the right answer in the comment section. What is that number? It is 9.2 crore rupee. Sorry, it is 9.2 crore in numbers. Clear? Now let's try to understand this particular beautiful graph which has been mentioned here. This beautiful graph tells us about the fiscal deficit and the primary deficit. Now, what is the fiscal deficit, guys? So I told you so many times that fiscal deficit is that particular gap. Like, let's take an example. Every month, your salary is 25,000 rupees. Let's take an example, right? I know that after getting into the RBI, your salary will be more than, 1 lakh, 1.2 lakh rupees, right? But now, for now, let's take an example. Your salary is 25,000. Clear? But your expenditures are 30,000. That means that your expenditure is more than your salary. And how much more? 5,000 rupees. So how will you bear the cost of rupees 5,000? You have to borrow this money, right? So this is the gap in between your expenditure and your salary. So this value, that is the 5,000, this is the gap which we call the fiscal deficit. Clear, everyone? Now let's move on to the next month. Now again in the next month, like this month, you have basically borrowed the 5,000 rupees. Next month also, you were having the 25,000 rupees salary, but now your expenditure is 31,000. Now why it is 31,000? Let's take an example. 1,000 rupees was the interest payment that you need to give on their borrowing, right? You will be paying the interest payment also, right? So because you are a responsible person of the nation, so you will be paying the interest also. Similarly, when government of India has taken the borrowing, so they are also required to pay the interest. So when we deduct the interest expenditure from the fiscal deficit, it gives us the primary deficit. Getting it? Understanding this point in a very easy manner, guys. I have explained it to you. I hope that you are really liking the way we are conducting this session. There are no doubts till now in your mind. Everything has been decoded in a very easy language. Now you got to know what is the fiscal deficit, what is the primary deficit. When we deduct the interest payments from the fiscal deficit, we get the primary deficit. Now you can see that from the COVID-19 pandemic years, my dear friends, both these numbers has decreased. In the fiscal year 21, the number was 9.2, right? And now you can see that the fiscal deficit has reduced to 4.4%. And when we talk about the primary deficit, it is reduced to 0.8%. So that means that it is really good. That means we are now having less amount of borrowings. Government is not borrowing recklessly now. And we also discussed that in the union budget, that right now government of India has declared that, my dear people, I am not going to recklessly borrow from the market. You know why? Because already I have taken so much of the borrowings. But don't worry. Although I won't be taking most of the borrowings, but still I will ensure that I will be spending the money on the public capital expenditure. Right? So this is the promise of the government of India that we saw in the union budget. If you have not watched that session, then please watch that session, my dear friends, after the end of this session. Okay. So that's why I told you that, see, this economic survey is not just a document. It is a very interesting story of the Indian economic performance of the last year. And it says a lot about your country, where you are living, how exactly the government is performing. So we always see ना, like जब आप अपने परफॉर्मेंस देखते हो, आपका एक रिपोर्ट कार्ड आता है कि लास्ट ईयर मैंने मान लो कि ग्रेजुएशन किया, लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल, मैंने 12th स्टैंडर्ड क्लियर किया, तो मेरा फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, मैथ्स, देन इंग्लिश, फिजिकल एजुकेशन, मेरा स्कोर क्या था, हर एक डिफरेंट सब्जेक्ट्स में मेरा क्या स्कोर था, ओवरऑल मेरा परसेंटेज क्या था, एंड देन आई कैन कंपेयर दैट परसेंटेज फ्रॉम द क्लास 11th. Similarly, in this particular economic survey, we are making that analysis that what exactly is the performance of the India in the different subjects. What are the different subjects? In the services sector, in the primary sector, in the agriculture, in the industrial sector. So that's what we are trying to discuss in this economic survey. I hope that all of you are really finding this document now more interesting in nature. Let me tell you that in the upcoming part of the document, we are having more interesting facts which are waiting for you. Let's move ahead. Now guys, let's move ahead and moving on to the GST and activity proxies. So goods and services tax collections has also increased 6.7% year-on-year growth. And e-way bills, guys, what are the e-way bills? When we want to move the product from one place to the another, we have to generate the e-way bill. So e-way bills are used for goods movement. Rising volume suggests robust transactions and logistics activity. अगर e-way bills का नंबर इंक्रीज हो रहा है, इसका मतलब क्या है कि लॉजिस्टिक्स हमारे कंट्री में अब और ज्यादा इंक्रीज हो रही हैं. when the logistics are becoming more and more higher, right, that means that we are generating more and more economic activities. Let's take an example that Amazon is running 50 trucks last year, and this year this number of trucks has basically increased to 70 because now more and more number of people are ordering the products. That means now more and more number of people are having the capacity to purchase products from the Amazon. Clear, everyone? So this is just a very small example that I have tried to give you to make you understand it. Now moving ahead, you can see that revenue receipts, gross tax revenue, non-corporate tax collection, and the income tax returns. My dear friends, we have discussed all these different areas, and in all these areas we have seen that we have seen improvement from the last year. Clear, everyone? In all the areas we have improved, and that is why India's financial health is also going good, right? That means Indian government ki jo pockets and they are still heavy in nature. Now guys, when we talk about the GST, a very important part comes into the picture. You all know that last year in the month of September, the GST rationalization took place. What was held in the GST rationalization? You all know that earlier we were having the 4 slabs of the GST, and we reduced it. We reduced the number of slabs in the GST rationalization, and we came up with the 2 rate structure. Okay? So 18% standard and 5% merit were there. So there were basically 4 different slabs like 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. So what we did, we removed the 12% wala slab, and the 28% wala slab was also merged with the 18% wala slab, so that we are ensuring that yes, now this is really going to simplify the taxation system, the indirect taxation system in our country, and the people will be able to have more clarity now that how much tax we are required to pay on these different products. And my dear friends, let me tell you, what are the 5% merit products? These are the common goods which are being used by the people. For example, your daily essentials. Then we are having the merit-based products. Then we are having the 18% standard. And then 40%. These are the demerit or the sin goods. What are the demerit and sin goods? Which we see that they are not that much important for our life, but still we spend money on them. For example, there are so many people who basically smoke cigarettes. Cigarette is not really good for your health, and it is not at all required for your existence. But still, there are people who smoke cigarettes. There are people who are having the enough amount of money. They purchase the luxurious cars. So cars are not that much required. Like luxury car is not required, right? You can have a normal car. So these luxury cars, again, they will be attracting more and more amount of taxes. Clear, everybody? So that's what comes under the demerit and the sin goods. Absolutely right, Rupesh, you have given the right answer. Right example, that is tobacco. Tobacco is the sin good here. Clear? Now, my dear friends, move on to the capital expenditure, and we have seen that there was a push given by the Indian government into the capital expenditure. Why? Because Indian government was having good amount of money in their pockets. Then only they will be able to spend now. So 2.7% of the GDP. This was the case in the pre-pandemic era, and it was 3.9% in the post-pandemic. And in 2025, it is 4% of the GDP. Clear, everyone? On the effective central government capital expenditure, it was 2.7% of the GDP, 3.9% in the post-pandemic era, and 4% in the fiscal year 25. Now, I told you that what is the capital expenditure. You will be having the doubt कि sir आपने effective central government capital expenditure नहीं बताया, right? So let me tell you. See, government of India is spending the money on the capital expenditure, right? On the creation of the goods, on the creation of the assets like roads, bridges, highways. Then we are having the railway lines, right? Now, this is the amount of money that government of India has spent. Now, government of India is also giving some amount of money to the Indian states, right? And this Indian states are also spending the money on the creation of these assets like roads, highways. Then we are having your railway lines, your factories, your bridges. So now in the effective central government expenditure, what we do is we are adding this money which is being spent by the government of India and the money which is being spent by the Indian states. Clear, everyone? So this comes the effective central government capital expenditure. I hope that this concept is also clear to all of you. Now moving ahead, the special assistance to the states for the capital expenditure. It has helped the states maintaining the capital expenditure around 2.4% of the GDP. तो इसके अलावा भी special assistance दिया गया states को for the capital expenditure, and that was 2.4% of the GDP in the fiscal year 2025. So please, my dear friends, tell me in the comment section a very important point, that what exactly was the special assistance of the states to the states for the capital expenditure in the fiscal year 2025. What will be the right answer? The right answer is 2.4%. Absolutely right. Done, my dear friends. Let's move ahead. Now let's talk about the fiscal position and the debt of the state. So we have seen that what exactly is the fiscal position. What is the health of the Indian government pockets in terms of the amount of money that they are carrying, right? So we have seen that it is good. We have got the good taxes. Taxes are increasing. The government revenue is increasing. Now, what about the state government? So the state, when we talk about the combined debt, guys, this is the debt. The combined debt of the states was 2.8% of the GDP post-pandemic era, and it increased to 3.2% in the fiscal year 25. So this shows that the debt that Indian state has taken, the debt on the Indian state is really rising. But now this is not good, right? It was 2.8% of the GDP last time. Now it is 3.2%. When we talk about the debt to GDP, it has reduced by 7.1 percentage points since 2020, even with the high public investments. Even we are doing high public investments, but still we have been able to, and we have managed to reduce the debt to GDP ratio. Guys, let me tell you that debt to GDP ratio is a very important parameter which tells us that, see, if this particular ratio is increasing, that is a negative sign for the Indian economy or for any economy. Why? Because it shows that we are having more and more amount of debt. That means more and more payment now we will be using and repaying that particular debt. Clear, everybody? I hope that this much part is clear to everyone. Right, till now everything is clear. So we have discussed about the performance of the sectors. We have seen the different values of the growth for our country, that is the gross value addition. We have covered the GDP growth rate, real GDP growth rate, what is the potential growth for the country. Then we discussed about the performance of the different sectors of services, industry and agriculture. Then we discussed that what is the financial health of the government of India and the Indian states. Now, what is the next important pillar? My dear friend, the next important pillar is the banks. Why so? I told you that businesses take loans from the banks, right? And when these businesses turns into the NPA, that means when they are not able to repay back the loan. So this NPA creates pressure on the banks, because these NPAs, these kind of assets become bad quality assets for the banks. Now they need to maintain that how exactly we will be bearing these losses, right? So now we need to see that what is the health of the banking sector in our country. In this upcoming part, we will be analyzing that thing. Okay, so everybody ready for this? Now you can see that a stable and monetary financial system ensures that savings are efficiently converted into the productive credit investment. Let me tell you a very superb rule of the government banks, sorry, of all the banks in our country. Like what happens, like you people are having some money, your savings, right? And you deposit them in the banks. You deposit these savings into the banks, and banks extend those savings of yours which you have deposited them with the banks as a part of the loan to the businesses. And these businesses invest this money in the infrastructure creation, in generating economic activities in the Indian economy, in making sure that people are getting jobs, right? And that's how the money multiplies in the economy. And what exactly we call this whole process? This is called financial intermediation. When you are pooling the amount of money which people were having in terms of deposits, and you are now investing that money through the loans from the businesses into the Indian economy, right? So that's what we call the financial intermediation, which refers to the institutions like banks, mutual funds, insurance firms, non-bank financial companies. They channelize the savings into the credit and investments. So basically, financial intermediation is having a very important role in any economy. Now that's why we need to understand that what is the banking sector asset quality improvement, my dear friends. कि बैंकिंग सेक्टर के एसेट्स कैसे थे, कैसे परफॉर्म किया, और क्या आगे पिक्चर है इनकी. So bank balance sheet quality and credit expansion indicates the robustness of financial intermediation. Guys, we also discussed in the union budget and also in the RBI annual report that the health of the banks has got better in the last year, right? You can see that the gross non-performing asset for the scheduled commercial banks was 2.2% in September 2025. Now, what is the gross NPA? Now, there is another important concept, that is the net NPA. What is the difference between them? Can anybody tell me that in the comment section? Let me tell you in a very easy language. See guys, what happens that, let's take an example that there are 100 people who have taken loan from the bank, right? And 60 people has repaid their loan properly, and 40 people have not repaid their loan. Now that loan will be converted into the NPA, right? Let's take an example, total of 10 crore rupees loan was taken by these 40 people, which has directly gone into the NPA, right? So collectively, I am talking about that 40 people collectively, their loan size was 10 crore rupees, and now it is converted into the NPA. So what will be the gross NPA? Gross NPA will be 10 crore rupees. Clear everyone? Till now everything is clear? This is the total amount of the NPA for a bank, right? Now what is the net NPA? Now let me tell you that bank is always having some amount of money which it keeps as a cushion to bear such kind of losses, and keeping that money for bearing those losses, it is called provisioning. Provisioning means when this 10 crore amount was becoming the NPA and bank was having in its kitty 4 crore, in that, out of that 4 crore, it has given 2 crore rupees for bearing the losses. So now what exactly will be the net NPA? 10 minus 2 was the provisioning amount, and now what is the new amount? 8 crore. Now 8 crore is the net NPA. Now guys, you can see from this below graph that the gross NPA and the net NPA, right? So basically the gross NPA was 11.2% in March 2018, and the net NPA was 6%. And now you can see that what is the beautiful work which has been done by the banks. What is the magical work which has been done by the banks, as this NPA is reduced to 2.2%. The gross NPA reduced to 2.2% and the net NPA reduced to 0.5% in the September 2025. A very important data. I am marking the star here, and I want to ask you, please tell me in the comment section that what exactly was the gross NPA percentage for the scheduled commercial banks in September 2025. Let me see who will tell me the right answer here. What is the right answer? The right answer is 2.2%. And what is the net NPA of the scheduled commercial banks for the year 2025? That is 0.5%. This is the right answer. So my dear friends, you guys are really rocking. As I can see in the chat box, everybody has given me the right answer. So Harshal, Rupesh, Srishti, Aditi, everybody has given me the right answer. Well done, everybody. Let's move ahead. So insurance for all, guys, you all know that government of India is really focusing on insurance for all. And in the insurance also, we have seen that we have really performed well. Like you can see the life total premium, it has increased to 8.9 lakh crores, and the non-life total premium has also increased to 3.1 lakh crores. Clear? The total assets under management in the fiscal year 25 was 77.4 lakh crores. So in the insurance sector also, we have really performed well. Clear, everyone? Clear, everybody? So now let's move ahead to the next part. And before that, you can see the bank credit to the MSMEs is also very important. Guys, you all know that I told you that banks are giving the loans to the businesses, and MSMEs are the one of the major contributors to the Indian economy and to the Indian employment opportunities. So now it is very important to understand that what exactly is the amount of money that we have provided to the MSMEs. And you can see here that the bank credit to the MSMEs has really improved. Like you can see, it was around 10 lakh crores here, right? And now it has improved to 27 in 2025 from Jan 2020. So now the money to the MSMEs is also increasing. So I hope that till now everything is clear, guys. Net NPA we have already discussed, 0.5%, 2.2% was the GNPA. Now moving ahead, guys, the credit expansion. The outstanding scheduled commercial bank credit growth has also increased. Now earlier in December 24, it was 11.2%, and now it is 14.5%, which shows stronger credit demand and lending capacity. Guys, see, this particular data gives us that the number of people who are taking the loans, the number of businesses who are taking the loans has increased. अब लोन कब इंक्रीज होंगे? सबसे पहले तो जब हमारा इंटरेस्ट रेट थोड़ा कम होगा दोस्तों, तभी इंक्रीज होंगे. और दूसरा, डिमांड है लोन्स की, राइट? दैट मीन्स पीपल आर रियली इंटरेस्टेड to take the loan, to take that risk, and they want to generate the economic activity in the economy. They want to support the Indian economy, right? And that's how this is really very important factor for the Indian economy, that yes, the demand of the loan is really high, because अगर banks की अगर loan की demand नहीं होगी तो what, who will bear the pressure again? The banks will be bearing the pressure again. The banks will be bearing the pressure. So what is the year-on-year growth in the outstanding scheduled commercial bank credit growth? What is the right answer? The right answer is 14.5%. Clear, everyone? Now let's move ahead, guys. See, we have discussed that, okay, the banking sector health is also good. Indian government ki health good hai, banking sector ki health good hai. So now comes a very important part. What if the people are not under the formal banking system? Again, it will not be good for the banks. So that is why Government of India takes so many steps for the financial inclusion. What is the financial inclusion? Financial inclusion means bringing the people under the umbrella of the formal banking system. So in the financial inclusion, we are having a very important scheme, that is the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which was launched in 2014. And we saw that by March 2025, 55.02 crore accounts were being opened under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, and 36.63 crores were being in the rural or semi-urban areas only. Like, and what are the other important schemes? That is the Stand Up India scheme. Then we have PM Swanidhi scheme, under which we are providing collateral-free working capital loans to the street vendors. Again, inducing the economic activities in the economy. Then we are having Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, guys. We have already discussed this scheme many times in a very detailed manner, in which we are providing the loans to the different categories of the businesses, right? So 36.18 lakh crore has been disbursed. All these values basically shows that yes, in India, there is a huge demand of the loan. और ये भी दिखाता है कि financial inclusion is really on a very high note in India. Why so? Because when the financial inclusion was not there, the people were taking the loan, but not from the banks, but from the Seth Sahukars, right? And these Seth Sahukars were exploiting the people with the very high interest rates. But now when they are taking the loans from the banks, So this is also adding a value to the Indian economy and not filling the pocket of some few people. Clear, everyone? And now you can see a very important part, that market participation is also very important, guys. We have done covered the financial inclusion. Now comes the market participation, and you must have seen that more and more people are now entering to the Indian market, right? More and more people have started doing investing. They are trading, they're investing in the stocks, they're investing in the mutual fund, they're investing in the SIPs. So that is why we are having the demat accounts. Now what is a demat account, guys? Let me make it very simple for you. You are having a bank account, right? You are having a bank account, and you can directly see here that in the bank accounts, when you open your mobile app of the bank, you can see that in the electronic format, it shows that you are having the X amount of balance in your bank account. So in the electronic format, your money is submitted to the bank, it is deposited in the bank, and it is showing your balance in the electronic format, right? Similarly, when you are purchasing the stocks, when you are purchasing the bonds, when you are investing in the market, so those documents are basically stored in an account in a dematerialized form. That means it is not in a materialistic form. It is not in the form of the papers. It is in the form of the assets of yours in an account which we call the demat account in the electronic format. तो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फॉर्मेट के अंदर ये होता है. क्लियर? So how many people were there? 235 lakh people were added in fiscal year 26, and the total is more than 21.6 crores. Clear, everyone? I hope this is clear to everybody. Now comes the unique investors. So unique investors has crossed 12 crore amount. Nearly 1/4, that is 25% of them were women only. Clear, everyone? Now mutual funds, 5.9 crore unique investors were there in the mutual funds. 3.5 crore from the non-tier 1 and tier 2 cities. Guys, earlier what was happening? The people from Delhi, from Mumbai, from Kolkata, from Chennai, these people were investing in these instruments because they were having the good financial literacy. But now even the person who is living in the villages, that person is also investing in these markets. That shows that this is the real example of financial inclusion. This is the real example of financial literacy and expanding the scope of these instruments into the entire population of the country. Clear, everyone? Now I'm having a question from Harshal. So do we have to remember these data as data are updated? It's tough to remember two data for same indicator. For example, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So data for GNP and NNP are different. So let me tell you, Harshal, that see, for the data of the GNP and NNPA, you have to remember both the data, both for the economic survey and also the latest data, right? Why so? Because if in the examination the question is being asked according to the economic survey, what was the GNPA, right? Then you have to quote this number as the right answer. Clear? So whenever you will be seeing that such kind of questions are there in the exam, they are asking the question according to the particular reference to the report. Clear? Now when it comes to the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, so that part is basically not that much important from exam point of view, right? Because these numbers have really updated. These numbers are quite old, which were being taken care by the economic survey. Now they have been updated. So you are only required to remember the latest numbers for that. But for these numbers like the gross value addition, GNPA, what was the percentage share of the different agricultural sectors into the agriculture GVA. So that these numbers are important as per the economic survey. Clear? I hope that your doubt is resolved, Harshal, right? So GDP data is also required to be remembered. And let me tell you a very important point, guys, just slight deviation in this particular session, but still a very important part. See, we see GDP estimates from the so many different organizations like RBI is giving, right? Then we are having the World Bank, we are having the IMF, we are having the S&P, we are having the Indra, we are having the rating, right? Then we are having the economic survey, we are having the IMF. So we have to ensure that we are covering the data of the GDP growth forecast of the organizations which are Indian and international organizations, right? Like for the India economic survey, projections are really important. We have to cover the real life projection. We have to cover the GDP growth forecast for the IMF. We have to cover it for the World Bank. We have to cover it for the OECD. We have to cover it from the ADB. We have to cover it from the Niti Aayog. So all these are very, very important. Clear? We are not required to cover it for the, Morgan Stanley, right? We are not required to cover it for the S&P because they are not been asked in the examination. I hope that this makes sense and this is quite clear. Yes, they are quite confusing, but we have to cover it from examination point of view, right? So now, guys, let's move ahead. A very important part was there in the graph, that is the rise in the number of initial public offers. When basically a company becomes listed for the very first time and it launches its IPO, so many people are interested in basically investing in IPOs, right? Now you can see here that in the fiscal year 26 till April to November, the numbers in the IPO was 260. You can see in the fiscal year 23 it was 164, increased to 272 in fiscal year 24, increased to 320. That is the total number of IPO offers which are being launched in the market. Now they are also increasing. More and more countries are getting listed and they are launching their IPOs, right? So this is also showing a very good indicator for the Indian economy. Clear, everyone? Now let's move ahead to the regulatory quality international validation. Let me tell you guys that there are some various organizations which always see and analyzes and do the health checkup of the economy across the different factors, right? And these organizations are International Monetary Fund and World Bank. So basically they really assess the economy across the different factors, and that's why we are having the financial sector assessment program, right? So IMF and World Bank conducts the FSAP, in which it basically sees what is the resilience of the economy, what are the factors which are working in that economy, which are really working good for the economy. So we have seen that the total financial sector assets in our country in the calendar year 2024 was 187% of the GDP. The capital market has also expanded 144% of the GDP to 175% of the GDP in 2024. So capital market increase हो रही है, हमारी financial sector assets increase हो रहे हैं. That is really good indicator, and these are the findings of not any private organization. These are the findings of the world level organizations, that is International Monetary Fund and World Bank. So again, a very important part to be remembered from examination point of view. Clear? Then comes the steady rise in the total resource mobilization, equity and debt from the primary market. So दोस्तों हर एक level पे आप देखोगे we are only increasing. Even this number would have surpassed this number till now. See, this number is only from April to November. So it is less important to be remembered from examination point of view. Clear, everyone? So additionally, from this, we have also seen that the regulatory developments has also taken place in the various pillars of the Indian economy. Now, what are the different regulators? Like banking sector is a really important one. Capital market is there. Insurance sector is there. So these are three various important sectors which are really working well, and we are really going to bring some reforms in the Indian markets, right? So banking sector में कुछ reforms हुए, capital market में कुछ reforms हुए, insurance sector में कुछ reforms हुए. अब क्या reforms हुए, guys? You can see that you all know that during the RBI annual report we discussed that there were so many circulars and the master directions were there. Sorry, there were so many different regulations and circulars were there of the Reserve Bank of India. What RBI did? So RBI basically consolidated all of them into the master directions, right? So to make it more simplified in nature. So this is one of the reform which has been taken in the banking sector by the RBI. So RBI's framework for formulation of regulations, it standardized the regulatory process stipulating periodic review and consultation, right? So RBI ने अपने processes को और simplify किया, number of directions को कम किया, और public sector banks ने एक credit assessment model को increase किया to ease the doing business for the MSMEs. RBI की free AI report आई जिसके अंदर हमने 6 pillars और 7 सूत्रास के बारे में पढ़ा. So these were the different improvements and the reforms in the India's banking sector. अब बात करते हैं capital market की. So we have seen that securities market code has replaced so many different regulations of the SEBI, like SCRA 1956, SEBI Act 1992, Depositories Act 1996. All of them were consolidated into the security market code, making the rules more simplified in nature, right? And bringing all the rules under a single framework. That was really very important, guys. Let's take an example that you are having the different documents for the current affairs, right? And now you are required to look into the every document. Let's take an example. We are providing a single document as a current affair chapter, right? So this will be a single document. If you want to search anything there, then you can do it. So it is the more simplified approach, right? which is helpful. Now SEBI has also come up. We all know that SEBI is having a very important duty of investor protection, right, and investor awareness and education. So for the investor protection, we had launched SEBI check, right? SEBI versus scam. Then we were having ESG debt frameworks. So these were the different reforms which has been brought by SEBI in the capital market. Then we saw the changes in the insurance sector. We came up with the Sabka Bima Sabki Raksha Act 2025. And we also came up with the important provisions including higher FDI limits. You all know, guys, that in the insurance sector now we were having FDI limit of 100%, right? So simplified insurer regulations are there, strengthened policyholder protection is there. So we have taken so many steps in the insurance sector also. So when we talk about the regulatory developments in the banking sector, capital market and insurance sector, in all these sectors, we have seen that yes, we have really done well and really done a good job in this part. So my dear friends, till now we have covered so many important things from the examination point of view. So till now we are done with the external sectors. Sorry, we are now done with the services sector and industry sector. We are done with the agriculture sector. We are understand what is the health of the government of India, state government, banks, whether we are giving the loans or not. We are discussed each and everything. We also saw that what is the performance of the different regulators of the country, what are the different framework that they have brought in the banking sector, capital market and the insurance sector, right? Now let's move on to the external sector. Now we will be talking about the exports, remittances, FDI, reserves. So guys, when we talk about the exports, we are having majorly two categories, that is the services, right, and the merchandise exports. So what are the merchandise exports? These are the products, the physical products. When we do export and import the physical products, it is called the merchandise. So we are having the so many merchandise exports there. For example, right now I am having this particular product, my dear friend, that is a Bluetooth wireless earbuds, right? So this is a product which I can see. Clear, everyone? Then comes the services, like the BPO services we are providing, IT services that we are providing. So these are very important. So now, my dear friend, between the calendar year 2005 and calendar year 2024, India's share of global merchandise exports has increased from 1% to 1.8%. India का share in the global merchandise exports कितना increase हुआ? 1% से 1.8% हुआ. Absolutely right. And when we talk about the commercial services exports, it has increased from 2% to 4.3%. Very important data. So when we talk about the India's share of global merchandise exports, it has increased from 1% to what percent? Please tell me in the comment section. It is 1.8%. And when we talk about the global commercial services exports, it has increased from 2% to how much percent? It has increased from 2% to 4.3%. Absolutely right. And now, guys, according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development Report 2025, you know what? A very important finding being given by UNCTAD. That is India's rank among leading economies. India ranked among the leading economies in the trade partner diversification. And India ranked third in the global south. तो आप देख सकते हो कि अगर हम बात करें ट्रेडिंग पार्टनर में लीडिंग इकोनॉमीज की, तो इंडिया वाज रियली रैंक्ड हाई और ग्लोबल साउथ में इंडिया वाज रैंक्ड थर्ड. So that shows India's performance in the trade as well. When we talk about the exports, my dear friend, total exports were $825.3 billion with the growth rate of 6.1%. Non-petroleum exports हमारे थे $374.3 billion. Non-petroleum, non-gem and jewelry exports थे nearly 4/5 of the merchandise exports. अगर हम टोटल बात करें कि 100 यूनिट्स हमने मर्चेंडाइज एक्सपोर्ट्स ही की, तो वहां पर 4/5, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, दैट मींस 80% ऑफ द टोटल प्रोडक्ट्स वर ओनली फ्रॉम द नॉन पेट्रोलियम, नॉन जेम एंड द ज्वेलरी एक्सपोर्ट्स. क्लियर? नाउ व्हेन it comes to the services exports, the total value was $387.6 billion, that is with a growth rate of 13.6%. So total growth was 13.6%. Absolutely right. Everybody has given me the right answer. Well done, Harshal, Rupesh, Shrishti, all of you have given me the right answer. Well done. Now, my dear friends, comes a very important part, that is the current account deficit. What is a current account deficit? It is a very important part. My dear friends, see, throughout the year, you know that we are having so many trade activities with the outside of the world. Let's take an example. This is the India and this is the remaining countries. So money is going from India to these countries and money is coming from these countries to India. When we are doing exports, we are receiving the money. When we are doing import, we are giving the money. So the money received and money which basically moved out of the country, which was money given, when the money given is more than the money received, then this gap is called the current account deficit. Are you guys able to understand? It measures the net outflow on the trade, services, income transfers. Clear, everyone? If yes, please give me a thumbs up in the chat box that yes, this is clear to all of you. Okay, my dear friends. So current account and resilience you have understood. Current account deficit India का कितना रहा Q2 में 1.3%. Let me tell you that this quarterly data is not important. Clearly saying quarterly data is not important. Okay. Now moving ahead to the next part, remittances. What are the remittances? Let's take an example that my brother is living in Canada, right? And he is sending some amount of money back to India to support the family. So this amount of money that the person is sending back to the home, to his family, that is called remittance. Clear? So what was the remittance part in India? What is the status of remittances? India is remaining the largest recipient of remittances across the world. What was the value? 135.4 billion US dollars. My dear friends, it was 135.4 billion US dollars, the total remittances that India has taken and received. Clear? Now, when it comes to the foreign exchange reserves, the foreign exchange reserves were $701.4 billion by 16 January 2026. Now comes a very important part. My dear friends, see why exactly we need the foreign exchange reserves. Because you all know that when we are importing something, then we have to pay in the dollars, right, my dear friends? When we are importing something for the services of the particular company from the outside country, we have to pay that service in the dollars. Like, let's take an example. We are importing something, importing the wheat, importing the pulses, so we need to pay in the dollars. So for how many months we can pay out our import bills? If today we are not having any support, outside support from any country for giving us the dollars, so how many months we can sustain with our existing reserves? That timeline is very important, and that is the 11 months right now. That is the 11 months right now, and that is a very important part. Let me tell you, my dear future officers, that in the previous year examinations, many times we have seen this question on the import cover in terms of timeline. That what was the timeline? It is 11 months. It is very important. Okay. Srishti, Rupesh, Harshal, well done. You have given me the right answer. So till now, I hope that everything is clear to all of you. Let's move ahead to the next part. Now we are moving on to the foreign direct investment. So my dear friends, I already told you FDI. FDI is that amount which has been invested by the person living in the other country, and it is investing in the company which is in India, and the person is also having the control over the management and the daily activities on the company. That is called the foreign direct investment, FDI, right? The gross FDI inflows in the country was $64.7 billion. And when we talk about the greenfield investment, India ranked 4th globally in the greenfield announcements in 2024 with more than 1,000 projects. My dear friends, more than 1,000 greenfield projects have been seen in the India. And that is why when I ask you that what is the rank of India in terms of the greenfield announcements in 2024, what was India's rank? India's rank was 4th position. Please remember this. This is a very, very important data from examination point of view. Guys, see the data which is important. I am already marking the star there. That this is something that you have to retain at any cost. Then we are having the largest destination. India was also the largest destination for the greenfield digital investments, where we have attracted 114 billion US dollars between the 2020-2024. And guys, you have already seen that India have signed so many trade partnerships with the different countries. Like you can see that 8 free trade agreements and the comprehensive economic partnership agreements have been concluded in the past 5 years. Especially 5 साल में कितने सारे partnerships हमने किए हैं. We are having the India Mauritius CEPA. We are having India UAE. We are having this with Australia, right? Then we are having the UK, Oman, New Zealand, European Union. So many agreements that we are having with the different countries, right? So that means India is having good trade relations with the different countries, and we are really producing the more and more FDI into our economy, more and more investments into the Indian economy, and that is really a good sign for the Indian economy. Clear, everybody? So I hope that this is clear. Let's move ahead to the next part, that is the inflation. My dear friends, what is inflation? Inflation is the general increase in the level of prices. Let's take an example that today the price of milk is rupees 100 per liter. Tomorrow it is 104. Now what is the percentage change? 4%. So 4% will be the inflation. Then comes the disinflation. Let's take an example that the next day, let's not take it into the days, let's take it into the year. Let's take an example. In 2020 the price was 100. In 2021 the price got 108, right? And in the 2022 the price is 104. So you can see here, sorry, not 104, 112. 112 guys, it is 112. Clear? So you can see that from 2020 to 2021 it was increase of 8%, right? Directly 8% was there. Now from 2021 to 2022 there was an increase of 4 rupees, right? So this is less than 8%. That means inflation is still happening, but the rate of inflation has reduced. ठीक है? इन्फ्लेशन अभी है मगर रेट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन जो है वो कम हो गया है. इसको आप ऐसे भी सोच सकते हैं कि आपका जो नॉर्मल बॉडी टेम्परेचर है, अब किसी पर्सन को फीवर हुआ एंड फीवर वाज 103 104, उसके बाद फीवर कम हुआ 101 पर आ गया, तो फीवर तो अभी भी है, राइट? फीवर तो अभी है, बट फीवर का जो टेम्परेचर था वो कम हो गया, राइट माय डियर फ्रेंड्स? सो दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल डिसइंफ्लेशन. When there is a rate in the reduction of inflation, it is called disinflation. Getting it? Now when we talk about the average headline CPI, guys, what is the average headline CPI? This is basically on the most important goods and services that we consume. For example, food, fuel, clothes, transport, all these different things are being considered in the headline CPI. So it was 1.7% in the April to December 2025. And what was the key driver here? The disinflation in the food and fuel, which together carry 52.7% weight in the CPI basket. So why exactly the average headline CPI was 1.7%? Because there was a decrease in the inflation. There was a disinflation in the food and fuel wala article of the CPI basket, and that is why we have seen that inflation has got reduced. Clear, everyone? I hope that you guys are able to understand it. Among the major emerging market and developing economies, India saw one of the sharpest decline in the headline inflation in 2025. आप देख सकते हो दोस्तों कि कैसे ये sharpest decline आया है हमारे headline inflation के अंदर. Clear? ये देख सकते हैं आप, ये जो decline देखने को हमें मिला in the fiscal year 2025, right? So India was one of the countries which have seen such kind of sharpest decline in the headline inflation, which is 1.8 percentage points. So my dear friends, till now we have seen everything. We have covered about the Indian economy, we covered about the different sectors performance, we covered about the bank's health, we covered about the Indian government pocket health, we covered about the state governments, we covered about whether we are giving the loans or not, and then we covered about the financial inclusion, financial market also, and then we covered about the inflation as well. Now it's the time to cover the investment and infrastructure. तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मैंने आपको बताया था, कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर हम करते हैं तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट होता है. तो पब्लिक कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर स्केल अप हुआ 4.2 टाइम्स हुआ. क्लियर? सो यू कैन सी हियर दैट इन द 2018 इट वाज जस्ट 2.63 लाख करोड़. सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर वाज 2.63 लाख करोड़. इट इंक्रीज टू 11.21 लाख करोड़ इन द फिस्कल ईयर 2026 बजट एस्टिमेट्स. And what was the effective capital expenditure? It was 15.48 lakh crores. So some important points here. How much capital expenditure has increased from 2018 to 2026? It is 4.2 times. Now when it comes to the roads and highways, the national highway network has also increased 91,287 kilometers से बढ़कर 1.46 lakh kilometers हमारी highway network increase हुआ. High speed corridors, my dear friends, it increased from 550 kilometers to 5,364 kilometers. From 550 kilometers to 5,364 kilometers, nearly tenfold हमारे हाई स्पीड कॉरिडोर्स इंक्रीज हुए. So you can see in the infrastructure as well as in the capital expenditure we have seen increase. In the public capital expenditure, roads and highways, railways, aviation, in the power sector, in all these sectors we have seen that there was an improvement. In the rail network, guys, we have seen increase in the route kilometers. Target addition is 3,500 kilometers in fiscal year 26. Please remember this point. 3,500 kilometers is the amount of length of new railway lines that we want to map down in the Indian railway sector, right? That we will be adding the new railway lines of 3,500 kilometers in fiscal year 2026. Clear, everyone? Electrification is achieved 99.1%. Now, in the power sector, installed capacity 509.74 gigawatt of the power. Installed capacity is there. Demand supply gap has also fell from 4.2% to nil. See guys, earlier क्या था कि डिमांड ज्यादा होती थी और सप्लाई कम होती थी पावर की, बट अब हमने उसको बराबर कर दिया, इसको हटा के हमने इसको बराबर कर दिया, राइट. तो ये जो गैप था इसको हमने निल कर दिया है. Clear, everyone? Understanding it? So distribution companies turnaround is also was high. Positive profit after tax was 2701 crore for the first time. पहली बार हुआ कि इस वैल्यू तक पहुंचा है. Are we really required to remember this data? No, we are not required to retain this information, guys. This is more for the understanding purposes point of view. Similarly, digital and water infrastructure, tele-density, 5th generation services available. 5G services, my dear friends, you all know right now is available throughout the India. Even in the remotest part of the country, on the border of the country, you see that 5G services are there, right? 99.9% districts are covered under the 5G services. जल जीवन मिशन देखें तो दोस्तों 81% से ज्यादा रूरल हाउसहोल्ड को हम रूरल टैप वाटर कनेक्शन प्रोवाइड करा चुके हैं. दैट इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट. When it comes to the space, India became the 4th nation to achieve autonomous satellite docking with rising indigenous mission and the private participation. Now, what exactly is the SpaceX mission, guys? You all know. In 2025, we conducted this mission. In this mission, what exactly we saw? We did the docking of the 2 satellites. That means there is one satellite, right? And there is another satellite. So both of them were basically launched at the different timelines, right? What we are going to do here is that we are going to connect these satellites when they are in the space. So we can connect them and we can disconnect them. So this is called the space docking. Clear, everyone? So we also, achieved the space docking, the satellite docking in the space. And India became the 4th nation to achieve this autonomous satellite docking, right? So that's all from the different sectors. We covered about the infrastructure also. Now let's move on to the environment and climate change. But before that, my dear friends, I would like to ask you, are you really enjoying this session? Are you really enjoying this session? क्या आप सभी को मजा आ रहा है? Are you able to understand all the key points, the technicalities that we are discussing here? Please tell me. So I can see in the chat box that yes, everybody is able to understand everything and they are also enjoying the session. That's really good, my dear friends. So that is why we are conducting this session. Herschel is saying unable to retain. So yes, still let me tell you that a lot of revision is required for this, right? And for the revision, we are having so many, more than 90 MCQs, which are available over our course, which you can practice for the better retention. Okay. So now guys, moving on to the environmental and the climate change, we have seen that the renewable energy capacity installed in our country in fiscal year 25-26 was 38.61 gigawatt, which include the maximum contribution was from the solar, then wind, biopower and hydro. So these are the different components of the renewable energy capacity installed in our country, and the maximum contribution by which sector? Please tell me. The maximum contribution was which sector? It was from the solar sector. Absolutely right, 30.16 gigawatts. Clear, everyone? And now this particular economic survey also tells us that India will be requiring around 411 gigawatt hour of energy storage by 2031-32. Guys, you all know that why exactly we are working a lot on the semiconductors. We had the India Semiconductor Mission last year also. This year also we have seen in the budget that ISM 2.0 has been launched. Why exactly we are working on this? Because in the storage devices, in the batteries, in the electric vehicles, in the solar parts, we use these semiconductor chips, right, my dear friends? And you can see that India requires 411 gigawatt hour of the energy storage by 2031-32, and that is why Indian government is preparing for the future, right? We are preparing for the future, and that is why we are working a lot on these particular sectors. Clear, everyone? Now I hope that it makes sense to you that why exactly, you know, every time our minister is going anywhere, he's talking about the semiconductors. Every time we are focusing on the semiconductor. What is the next best reason? You all know artificial intelligence. It also requires these semiconductor chips. For that, we need to work on the semiconductor part. Right, my dear friends? It is just the same way that you are preparing for the current affairs section, because it is a demand of the examination. Similarly, these are the demand of these emerging sectors. That's why we need to fulfill that demand. Now, there are key milestones in India's climate and sustainable finance framework. And my dear friends, see, these are this data also, and I want you to give it to you as a homework. ये आपका homework रहेगा, ये आप खुद से पढ़ेंगे. ठीक है, my dear friends? So these different milestones, let me tell you that the milestones of 2025 and 2023 are more latest ones that you can remember from examination point of view, and the previous ones are less relevant, so that is why I'm giving you them as a homework. Now let's move on to the next part, that is the education and health. So guys, education and health are the two very important social sectors of the economy, right? When these sectors are really impacted, then that means our economy is not going in the right direction. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic era, right? The economies were really downgrading. They were not performing well. The economies fall down, right? Why? Because it really impacted the human resource capital of the nations, of the economies. So that is why the human resource, the human capital of the economy is really very important to be in a healthy state, right? And for that, we are having two important sectors, that is education and health. When it comes to the education, the school education is really very important. And when we talk about the school education, one of the very important parameters is the gross enrollment ratio. What is the gross enrollment ratio? The gross enrollment ratio is basically, guys, let's take an example, very easy. Let's take an example in our country, the people who are in the age of 18 to 23 years, right? They are eligible to study. They are eligible to have education, right? And let's take an example that there are 100 people who are in this age group, 18 to 23 years, right? And the people who have taken admission into the educational institutions, only 40 people have basically taken the admission into the education institution. So what will be the gross enrollment ratio? 40 upon 100. That means the number of people who have taken admission and the number of people who are eligible to take admission, right? I can write it here, 40 upon 100 into 100. It comes 40%. So that is the gross enrollment ratio for the nation. And right now, what is the gross enrollment ratio in the primary level, that is from grade 1 to 5 in India? That is 90.9. That is the gross enrollment ratio. In the upper primary, it is 90.3. In the secondary, that is from 9 to 10th class, it is 78.7. And the higher education, sorry, in the higher secondary, it is 58.4. Clear, everybody? So now you can see here a very important part, guys. When it comes to the total number of students in our country, India operates one of the world's largest school systems. Why this economic survey says this? Because the number of students in our country is 24.69 crores. And the number of schools in our country is 14.71 lakh. And the total teachers are 1.01 crore. So number of students kitne hai? 24.69 crores. Number of schools are 14.71 lakhs. And the teachers are 1.01 crores. That is the right part. So India is basically going to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio by 2030 in the school education, right? And 50% of the gross enrollment ratio in higher education by 2035. That means when we talk about the graduation, when the people are entering the colleges, so for that we are having the gross enrollment ratio very low, and we want to increase it by 50% by 2035. And when it comes to the school education, it is already 100%. We want to achieve by 2030. Clear, everyone? Let's move ahead to the next part. In the higher education, guys, we can see higher education institutions has increased from 51,000 to 70,018. Premier institutions have also increased. 23 IITs are there, 21 IIMs are there, 20 IIMs are there, right? 20 AIMs are there. Then 2 international IIT campuses are there in the Zanzibar and Abu Dhabi. Guys, this is very important. Please remember this part. There are 2 IIT campuses of India in the foreign countries. Where exactly? What is the location? Zanzibar and Abu Dhabi. Please remember this. Then we were having the national education policy reforms. So national credit framework adopted 170 universities here. Academic Bank of Credit covers 2,660 institutions. 4.6 crore IDs have been issued, including 2.2 crore APAR IDs. 153 universities have introduced flexible entry-exit pathways. Guys, APAR is the ID which is being issued to the student, and I want all of you to give me the answer in the comment section after this particular session that what is the full form of APAR. ये आप मुझे बताएंगे कमेंट सेक्शन के अंदर, ठीक है? तो 2-3 क्वेश्चन दोस्तों हो चुके हैं आज के होमवर्क के. आपको मुझे बताना होगा कमेंट सेक्शन के अंदर व्हाट इज योर आंसर्स आफ्टर द एंड ऑफ द सेशन, राइट? Now moving ahead to the health outcomes. My dear friends, health outcomes are also very important to be monitored, because if the people are not healthy, then again our economy will fall down. And here guys, since 1990, when we talk about the maternal mortality rate, what is the maternal mortality rate? It is basically the number of women who died per 1 lakh live births. The number of women died due to the pregnancy related issues or the delivery related issues, right? Per 1 lakh live births in our country, that is called maternal mortality rate, and it has reduced by 86%. When we talk about the global average reduction, it is 48% only. Last year also we discussed this data, right? The global average is 48% and India has reduced it by 86% since 1990, a very important data. And under the 5 mortality rate, that means when a child loses the life before celebrating his 5th birthday, that is what we call under 5 mortality rate, which is reduced by 78%, and the global level it is 61%. And what is the neonatal mortality rate? It is the rate, it is basically the number of children who lost their life within 28 days of their life. It is called neonatal mortality rate. It is reduced by 70%, and global level it is 54%. So these rates are also important. Since 1990, India has reduced the mortality rate by how much percent? Please tell me in the chat box. Now it's your turn to give me the answer in the comment section. It is 86%. When we talk about the under 5 mortality rate, what is it? It has been reduced by 78%. When it comes to the neonatal mortality rate, it has reduced by how many percent? It has reduced by 70%. Absolutely right. And when we talk about the infant mortality rate, it has reduced from 2013 to 2023. It was 14 2013 and it will reduce to 25 in 2023 as per the 1,000 live births. That is the infant mortality rate. Clear everyone? We have seen drop in all these mortality rates. We have discussed them in a very holistical manner. I have given you the definitions as well. So I believe that everybody of you is able to understand them. Well done, Harshal, Srishti, Rupesh. All of you have given me the right answer in the comment section. Well done. Let's move ahead to the next part and let's now discuss the employment and skill development. So my dear friends, employment and skill development, getting skilling right. So guys, employment is really very important. When we talk about the employed persons in our country, more than age of 15 years. So these are 56.2 crore people in the Q2 of fiscal year 26. That means the people who are living in our country and who are aged more than 15 years, there are 56.2 crore people who are employed. And when it comes to the job creation, 8.7 lakh new jobs were being created in the second quarter as compared to the first quarter in fiscal year 26. Clear everyone? So we are done with this part. Now we are moving on to the labor codes, my dear friends. You all know that for betting and for providing better social security and better environment to the people who are working in our organizations, we are having the labor codes. And we wanted to balance the workers' protection with the flexibility. And that is why we came up with the labor codes which were implemented. 29 labor laws were consolidated into the 4 labor codes and they were enacted on 21st November 2025. Please mark this information, very important information which can become a question in the examination any day. right? So this might be waiting for you in the examination to be asked to you. 21 November 2025 is that date when the 4 labor codes were being enacted in our country. 22nd September 2025 was the date when we enacted the GST rationalization in our country. Now, when it comes to the 4 labor codes, what are the 4 labor codes? Code on wages, code on social security, industrial relations code, occupational safety, health and working conditions code 2020, guys. So we have basically boost the formalization of these labor codes. We have enhanced social security to the people. Female participation will also increase as a result of these labor codes enactment. There will be growth in income of the people. There will be ease of doing business for the people. Employment expansion will take place after the enactment of the labor codes. So these are the different things, guys. Let me tell you that this is not just another document. This is the specific fodder material for your phase 2 examination descriptive paper, right? Now moving ahead to the organized manufacturing employment. So according to the annual survey of industry, 6% increase in the employment was seen, and more than 10 lakh jobs were being created in fiscal year 24 as compared to the fiscal year 23. Clear, everyone? Then comes the gig and platform workers. What are the gig and platform workers? For example, our Zomato service, our Zomato delivery partners, my dear friends, right? The Ola drivers, Uber drivers, these are the gig and platform workers. Now they are being the part of the labor codes. So we have expanded the social security coverage, welfare funds and portability of the benefits of labor codes to these gig and platform workers. Another important reform being taken in the government of India, right? Then we have having the e-shram and job matching ecosystem, guys. You all know e-shram portal. E-shram portal is the place where the employers can list down that, okay, these are the requirements and we are hiring. And then there are the people who are having the e-shram cards. Their skill sets are being present there, and the people can see that, okay, these are the jobs available, and the employers can see that these are the people available, right? So we are having the job matching ecosystem. So e-shram portal, more than 31 crore or unorganized workers have registered. And let me tell you that through the e-shram portal, we are also providing the benefits of the different government schemes launched by the government of India for the benefit of these unorganized workers in our country. Clear, everyone? So e-shram portal is that one-stop solution for the unorganized workers. That is why their enrollment is really very important, and more than 31 crore people have enrolled and registered on the e-shram since January 2026. Women were more than 54%. Then we were having National Career Service Portal, guys, where we are having 59 million registered job seekers. This system that I told you now, where we are having the employers and where we are having the employees, their skill sets are being mentioned. So this is the part of the National Career Service Portal. On the National Career Service Portal, this happens that the employers are listing down their jobs, employees are listing down their skill sets, and now there is the proper matching of the jobs. Clear, everyone? So I can give you a very odd example here. Like you all know the marriage bureaus, my dear friends, where the grooms are basically presenting their demands, like this is our requirement, and the brides are also presenting their demands, right? Presenting their requirements. And then when you see that on these apps, they are having the matches of the people that, okay, as per the requirements of these people, these are the matches, right, my dear friends? So this is just one outside the box example to make you understand only. That's it, right? To make you understand only, I have brought this example. So now moving ahead, the ITI upgradation, guys, you all know that we are having more than 1,000 government ITIs where we are basically providing, the technical training to the people in our country. There are 200 hub ITIs are there, 800 spoke ITIs are there. So it basically works on the hub and spoke model. Clear? Then comes the rural development and social progress, my dear friends. So it is very, very important to understand that India want to become the Viksit Bharat by 2047. And to become the Viksit Bharat, we have to ensure that we are now we are working on the grassroots level for the people, right? In our economy, we are working at the grassroots level, guys, right? So that we can develop the people who are living in the rural areas. Then only the real development will take place of India. Because when you can see the places like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and you want to develop them more, see, there is always a scope of improvement, right? But these cities are already developed in nature. What about those remote villages in the country? They require the development, right? So for that part also some steps have been taken, and we also see a very important indicator as a part of the development, that is the poverty measurement update. And we all know that World Bank has basically revised the poverty line. It has increased from $2.115 per day to $3 per day. So when it comes to this new poverty line, which has been defined by the World Bank, we have seen that the extreme poverty was 5.3% and the lower middle income poverty was 23.9%. Clear everyone? Additional data point included in your input, MPI declined from 55.3% in 2005-6 to 11.28% as per the Niti Aayog. So my dear friends, according to the Niti Aayog, अगर हम बात करें multidimensional poverty index, it has declined from 55.3% to 11.28%. Very important data from the Niti Aayog. It is very important part. क्लियर एवरीवन? तो हमने देखा कि इंडिया ने अपना जो पावर्टी रेट है उसको 5.3% तक ले आए हैं एज पर द रिवाइज इंटरनेशनल पावर्टी लाइन ऑफ $3 पर डे. क्लियर एवरीवन? Now when it comes to the social services expenditure, it was 7.9% of the GDP, 7.7% in the fiscal year 25, 7% in the fiscal year 24. So you can see that it is also increasing. The social service expenditure is also increasing. Then we have done a lot of steps in the, skill development for the people in the rural areas. We have a Yojana of the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Yojana, and we are having the RSETI. Rural self-employment training institutions are there, which basically provides the, free training facility to the people of the rural area so that they can basically have their own small businesses. Clear everyone? Then we are having the Swamitwa and the drone initiatives. Under the Swamitwa, we do the mapping of the villages, right? We do the survey mapping of the villages. So we have done the drone survey of 3.28 lakh villages in our country out of the target of 3.44 lakh. 2.76 crore property cards have been prepared for 1.82 lakh villages. Earlier you must have seen that there are so many court cases are basically pending on the property only, because in the villages there was not proper mapping, right? And there were so many disputes among the people in the villages, right? So basically that's why Government of India came up with the solution of the property card, so that there are no more such kind of disputes. Then Drone Didi initiative is there. 1094 drones have been distributed to self-help group drone Didis using own resources. Then 500 drones are being provided under the Namo Drone Didi scheme. So my dear friends, we are having so many different initiatives taken for the betterment of the human capital of the nation, right? Now we are moving on to the another important part, my dear friends. Now we are into the final leg of the discussion, and we are discussing about emerging theme, that is the artificial intelligence, urbanization, and the strategic vision. Now first part here is the artificial intelligence ecosystem. So you all know that the survey argues that smaller task-specific AI models can reduce entry barriers for the firms, diffuse innovation across sectors, work in low resource settings, and operate on the local hardware. तो AI models को हमें map down करना होगा in these different parts so that we can have more productivity and more efficiency in our system, right? And India's demand is emerging from the real world problems only across healthcare, agriculture. Guys, you all know we have come up with the Bharat Vistar, right? A very important part. We have come up with the AgriStack portal. So these are the portal which are having artificial intelligence embedded into them. So right now our kisan, our farmer in our own country, when he wants to take any kind of guidance, the person can directly call on a number from his ordinary phone, and with the help of the artificial intelligence, the person can basically take the required guidance according to the situation and the location of the farmer, that where exactly the person is located. Clear everyone? Then comes the urbanization. So my dear friends, you all know that urbanization is really very important part, right? The Namo Bharat Regional Rapid Transit System has been launched. It's presented a model showing how speed regional connectivity can reduce the travel times. As I told you, when we will be having high speed trains, so people will be able to commute from one place to the another in a very easy time and in a very less amount of time, in a very easy way. So there will be more economic activities there, right? And when we will be setting up these new railway lines, what will happen? And these rapid transit systems, guys, what will happen? More and more job opportunities will be created for the people, right? Then comes a very important part of this particular economic survey, my dear friend, that is the from Swadeshi to strategic indispensability. What exactly it means? Guys, see, We all know that we want to become the manufacturing hub in every area, right? You guys have understood me. You guys will agree with me that we have understood that we want to become the manufacturing hub in the every area, right? But this economic survey says that we have to be strategic in this. It should not be like that in every area we need to become the manufacturing hub. In every area we need to be the self-reliant. No, we should not do this. We have to become self-reliant in those areas which are more strategic in nature. Let's take an example. Right now we were having the energy crisis. LPG prices went high due to the Middle East crisis, right? We have seen that part. So my dear friends, in the West Asia also we saw such kind of crisis. So there was an energy crisis. LPG prices got increased. So now this is a strategic area. During the COVID-19, we were not having the vaccine. We were dependent on the world that please give us the vaccine. What if they just deny giving us the vaccine? What will happen? We will lose the lives of our dear people, right? So that's why the economic survey says that we have to be very strategic in becoming the self-reliant. We are not required to be, self-reliant in every area, right? We have to ensure that we are self-reliant in those areas which, if they are being denied by the outside countries at the main important time during the emergency situation, at that point of time we are able to survive. So we have to first focus on those areas. What do you think? This part is good or bad? The economic survey, what exactly it is saying with this particular part, my dear friends, try to think like an officer now. What do you think? This is really good or bad? We have to be self-reliant in every area or in the strategic areas first. We have to take the thing step by step, right? So that is why the economic survey says that we have to work on a 3-tier framework. That is the critical and vulnerabilities with the high strategic urgency, economically feasible capabilities with the strategic payoffs, and low urgency or very high cost substitution. तो हमें ऐसे को avoid करना पड़ेगा. Clear everyone? तो ऐसी चीजें जिन पे हमें ज्यादा कॉस्ट लगेगी एंड दे आर नॉट दैट मच स्ट्रेटेजिक फॉर द कंट्री, वी कैन अवॉइड दोज एरियाज, राइट? It also suggests a national input cost reduction strategy, and the progression that we want to achieve is from Swadeshi to the strategic resilience to the strategic indispensability, and the goal is that India becomes embedded in the global system, so the world moves from thinking about buying Indian to buying Indian without thinking. Guys, a very, very strong line that they have mentioned, and you can always quote such kind of line in your answers. This is really going to fetch you some additional marks there, right? Why so? You can see right now, guys, what happens is that our product goes to the country, to the foreign country, and they analyze everything about that particular product, that whether it is making all the standards of our country or not. Now they are thinking a lot in accepting our products. We want to reach that particular level that when they are saying that, hey India, please send this product to us, and when this will happen when our products are really of high quality, right, my dear friends? So we are required to work on the quality of the products that we are exporting, so that they are not even thinking. A no-brainer decision, guys. If I tell you that today I am giving you a Chinese mobile and I am giving you iPhone, everybody knows that iPhone really works good, right, my dear friends? So basically we are having that no-brainer decision on the iPhone. Why? Because we are having that trust on that company, that it basically provides us the security and better service, right? So such kind of thing that without even thinking we are able to purchase the product of the India. That's what the level that we want to achieve according to the economic survey 2025-2026. So my dear future officers, in this session we have covered a very, very important part about the total complete checkup of the Indian economy, that how the economy is performing. And we have, in a nutshell, we can deduce that economy is performing really good because the pocket size of the Indian government was really good, right? The different sectors, services sector was the main engine growth of the India's economy. Industrial sector was also performing well. Agriculture was also performing well. The health of the banking system was also good, right? The GNPA is reducing, NNPA is reducing, gross value addition is increased, real GDP growth is increased, the potential growth of the Indian economy is also increased. India is one of the largest performing, India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So we have discussed all these different things in this economic survey session, guys. Please tell me in the chat box, are you able to understand the economic survey in a very beautiful manner? Please tell me in the chat box. Now, my dear friends, you must be thinking, sir, this is a very long document. How to revise it? How to revise it in a very, in a very easy manner? Let me tell you that for the proper revision now, I am having a very beautiful formula for all of you. And what's that? That is these revision tables. I am having a comprehensive snapshot table for all of you, with the help of which you will be able to cover all the data in a very minutes. Let's take an example, the macroeconomic review. The real GDP growth was 7.4%, GVA was 7.3%, potential growth was 7%. The range of the Indian economy growth was 6.8 to 7.2%, right? When we talk about the PFC growth, it was 7%. PFC share was 61.5% of the GDP. GFCF growth was 7.8%. GFCF share was 30% of the GDP, right? Then we are having the services sector. It was having the GVA growth of 9.1%. Share in the GDP of 53.6%, share in the GVA of 56.4%. So all these different data are being given in just the form of the tables only, my dear friends. That's all. If you are revising the table in a comprehensive manner, then this whole particular document you can just cover in the next 15 minutes. That's it. Clear, everyone? So Harshal, I think during this particular session, I've already provided you the highlights that what exactly is the different data that you are really required to retain from examination point of view, right? And even let me tell you that when you will be revising the data that we have mentioned in this table, that is really going to help you in the examination, right? So just 3 to 4 pages are there. I think that is really a good part that you can remember from examination point of view, right? So it's not that these are only the 10 figures that we will be revising and that will be enough from the examination point of view. This is not the part, right? So you have to revise these data from examination point of view. Clear? For example, this 11 months data is really very important, guys, right? So we have covered different such kind of data. Now you must be thinking that how exactly you can access the PDF. If you want to access this revision part also, the revision tables also, my dear friends, how can you access this? Let me tell you what you can do. Just go to the chapters website, just type chapters.in, go to the chapters website, go to the courses. Then on the left part, you can see the all categories part is there. You can just click on the package and you can go to the current affairs package. In the current affairs package, my dear friends, you guys can scroll it down and you will see that there is a union budget and economic survey. Just click here and you will see that we have provided you the economic survey document. This document is here. The 3 quizzes are there. Of 30 questions each, the total 90 questions are there on the economic survey. If you have basically missed the budget, then we are having the union budget also. And you can see that we are having the budget document, the video, and basically the 3 quizzes. Everything is being there in a very organized manner for all of you. You are no more required to search the videos on the YouTube. You are no more required to search the things on the YouTube or in the different Telegram channels. Just everything is there at a single place. Clear, everyone? And for your phase 2 examination also, my dear friends, we are having the sample descriptive answers also, right? So if you are really interested in this organized ecosystem, you can definitely invest your energy here, my dear friends, right? This is an investment of your examination for your better results. That's all. So my dear friends, that was all from the today's session. Now it's your turn to tell me about the session, that how exactly you liked this particular session, whether it was really good for all of you or not. Please, you can tell me that in the chat box of this particular session. Right now, I will be meeting you tomorrow at 8 a.m. in the morning with the next session of the month of May 2026. Till then, I would like to wish you all the best for your upcoming examination. Stay happy, stay healthy. Wish you all